Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Thank You for Your Service. Military films aren't necessarily always my thing, and in particular, war films themselves are hit and miss when it comes to me personally. But Thank You for Your Service is definitely not a war film. It's more of a personal story about PTSD and the aftermath of war. And overall, I think it is a really solid film. So let's go ahead and talk about those positives. Miles Teller plays our lead in this film, and he is very good. And I think Miles Teller is good in virtually everything that I've seen him in, but he really has a nice wide range here. He is acting with a capital A in a lot of scenes, but he also is giving us a lot of nuance, a lot of underlying pain, a lot of struggle without giving us that real big actor showcase. And I thought he just really displayed everything he needed to very well. And in honesty, I think our entire cast is pretty solid. This is clearly a touchy subject. This is clearly something that is difficult actually to bring to the screen, because dealing with things like PTSD and internal injuries is not necessarily the easiest thing to outwardly depict for the film. So I give big kudos to all of our actors. I really think they did a great job. And I do believe this film showed us some of the traumas of PTSD. It really showed us some harrowing images. I think this movie is very deep, very hard to watch, and committed to showing the tragedy of being a soldier post-war. And, I mean, it's an eye-opener, even on things we already logically know, but it still is an important reminder, even if it's not an easy one to watch. And I think it shined a great light on the lack of services there are for these veterans. The fact is that we put so much money into the military, but most of those resources are funneled into actual combat, into weaponry. When in fact, so many people who have served our country, who have been involved in active combat, who have been part of big explosions, come home and the resources just aren't there. So we give them all the weaponry they need, but we don't give them the proper weaponry to deal with the battle they face here at home once they return. And the movie really illustrated that very well. It's also not a long movie. It doesn't even reach 2 hours, and I think the pacing throughout most of the film is very solid. I do think it starts to drag a little bit at the end, but through most everything, you're kept engaged. You're really invested in these guys' stories. As for the negatives, one of the glaring negatives for me was Miles Teller's wife. I found her to be a completely unlikable character through and I understand she's depicting a real life woman, but she just came across as not only completely insensitive, but a jerk. Like, she was mean throughout. Very forceful and very invasive. I just thought she was like a horrible character and a dread to be around, even as somebody just watching the film. So I don't know if this is actually like how he interpreted how she was behaving or how she actually behaved, but it was really just, it wasn't pleasant to be around her. And honestly, this film in general isn't pleasant. It doesn't really let up at all. You're just constantly kind of in this dire state of despair and sadness and tension, which isn't an inherent negative. It weighs on you. So this is not necessarily like a good old Friday night type of film. Again, we're depicting real people here, so I'm not sure if this is how conversations actually happen. But I also think this film really depicted kind of the worst stereotypes of soldiers, complete with homophobia and domestic abuse jokes. So I'm not sure if these actual events happened or these conversations are documented or remembered, but it was just disheartening to see more like army jarhead stereotypes enforced in a film. I also think that it is heavy-handed with its messaging. It isn't trying to like scapegoat or pretend it is anything it is not. There is clear messaging going on here. There is a clear purpose and a clear vision for this film, and I think it achieves it mostly well, but it doesn't necessarily do it with a whole lot of nuance. And then finally, I just kind of left the film a little bit unsatisfied on the note we left it at. It just kind of was like a weird, alrighty then, ending. And as I mentioned before, it was short, but I think it was paced well up until that ending kind of like fumbled the ball a bit. But it wasn't a long movie. They could have taken some time to really flesh out a satisfying ending, and it feels like it kind of just leaves us. So that was a bit disappointing as well. But overall, I think Thank You for Your Service is a really solid film. I don't think it's the best post-war or PTSD related film, but it is definitely a solid one that comes with some really great performances and some really harrowing imagery and things to think about, and does serve as a reflection on how we treat soldiers in general, or really we can just apply that to people when we are in need of them and then when they're no longer of service to us. And I think that title is also a great title to reflect that. So I would give Thank You for Your Service a strong matinee. I think you'll really appreciate the craftsmanship in the film at hand here, but I don't know that the subject matter and just the heaviness of the film, as well as overall quality, it could be great, and it doesn't quite live up to that great seal that it could have achieved. Missing the marks there keep it from a full price ticket, but a very solid matinee. So that has been my review of Thank You for Your Service. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below, and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on our latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Thank You for Your Service? And what is your favorite post-war or PTSD type of film? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!